What is up, guys? Welcome to a new video. I wanted to go over a bunch of tips and tricks that aren't known as much. I've kind of been saving these up for a while to put them into one big video. Leave the video a like if you did. Let me know what you think of these, or how many of them you actually knew before the video, or like what was new. So I did one of these before actually, which I'm going to link down in the description. It was things like the ruined page example, like effectively having 3 pages going into a game instead of just 2. You change one, but you wouldn't save it until you know which role you were given. Another one was like the inhib. You can actually look at the glow going around the inhib to see how long until it respawns, so that's like a good way to time it. That video is in the description if you want to check out the other 5 tips alongside those 2. That's the kind of tip we're looking at, really. A bit random, probably not known as much, and hopefully something new for you guys to find out. So the first one is like my #1 most hated thing actually to play against as an AD carry. It's not like a champion, it's not like a strategy, it's actually like something most people just don't think about at all. Most AD carries, especially in like mid elo to higher up, will attack move, right? They'll use their A click or however they're going to do it, but they'll attack move when they're actually in a fight. It hits the closest to them or their mouse cursor. Now what really good supports do, or other roles, they'll drop a control ward or a normal ward randomly in fights, and the AD carry will stop to attack the ward when trying to attack move. It really messes up kiting, and it can easily get people killed or stop a teammate from dying, because that ward effectively is absorbing all of that damage. Like it absorbs that crit, for example, that could hit someone for like 500 damage. It's going to just take 1 life off a ward instead. It actually takes the AD carry time as well to like realize actually to adjust their mouse cursor. It disrupts their flow of kiting, which can harm them more than you think it does. A really good AD carry won't be affected as much, but most are going to get screwed by this. It might seem a little bit obvious now I've said it, but actually most of you guys will probably have never tried to actually do this in a game where it can really actually impact a fight, especially either 2v2 or in a team fight. Kha'Zix is another one. Actually, this applies to Dustblade as well, but remember Kha'Zix is passive, right? You gain the bonus damage on your next auto attack. You can see the buff on my toolbar here above my abilities. You get that again after the enemy loses vision. Same with Dustblade, right? The bonus damage comes out if they don't have vision of you, and you get that buff. You can actually walk into a brush though, and if you don't get the buff, you know that that bush is warded, right? If it wasn't, then you would have got the buff again from being unseen. It's just a small thing that can let you know if you're spotted leaving a gank, your lane, especially if you wanted to fake leave and then kind of come back in. Sometimes people will go, they'll come back and they don't realize they're sitting on a ward. With this little trick, you always know whether there's a ward in the bush or not. It's a small thing, but it's really good to know their ward slots, especially if you leave a lane and you're headed up the river, for example. You know they might actually come and wait for you if you walked over a ward. For Shaco or Shaco, there is a lot you can do with his clone anyway, right? There are so many random tricks and stuff like that, but one that's not common is the level 5 clone trick. Now everyone always thinks, how is that possible, right? You can't clone without your ultimate, and you can't ultimate without being level 6. Well, if Shaco actually levels up in the jungle to get level 6 and his ultimate with that, and the enemy team have not seen him on a ward or anything since then, if he actually ultimates and sends his clone out, it will still be level 5 to the enemy team. Even though it's level 6 on your screen, on the enemy team's screen, it will actually be level 5 because they haven't seen you level up to level 6. Nobody expects this because it looks like a level 5 Shaco, so they don't think it could be a clone. It's super confusing. Like, how can a level 5 Shaco clone exist? Because he has to be level 6 to use it. You can deceive in afterwards and get them when they're not expecting it. And remember, it's even better now actually with the traps that spawn after they kill the clone. If they kill it thinking it's you, and oh wow, this is a little bit easy, that's a bit weird. They kill it, the traps spawn, then you're actually going to get a good advantage to start the fight. Another one is for Elder Dragon, and it actually gets harder to kill, but in ways you probably didn't expect. Elder Dragon is already super hard, right? Worse than Baron actually, really. Part of that is because of a passive that nobody really knows about. While it is the same dragon and stuff, it does different damage to each team based on how many dragons you have taken during the games, how many Infernals or Mountain Drakes you've taken. For each dragon you have taken as a team, Elder will do 20% bonus damage and take 7% less damage. That's per stack, by the way, per dragon you have taken. The reason this is important is for 2 things. One, if you have 4 dragon stacks, that's 80% more damage and 28% less damage it takes from you. It makes it actually more risky to take. Even though the buff it does give you more too based on those stacks, it is going to be harder for you to get it. The other team though, in the exact same game still, you have 4 stacks, they have 0. It's just normal for them, no bonus damage, and they will take it quicker, no damage reduction like your team has. So in actually a weird way, if you have no dragons but you try to rush Elder, you actually take it easier than the enemy team if they've taken dragons during the game. Now bear in mind though, actually Earth and Mountain, that has true damage to epic monsters, so 10, 20 or 30% more true damage. damage. If you've taken these drakes, then you won't feel it being much harder, except it does hurt more, but you'll still take it just as fast, if not faster. That's one reason why those dragons are super important for late game, the mountain ones. Moving on to another one, Kalista's Ghost. Her W is seen as pretty poop, I think, actually. Like, well, the vision part of it doesn't really matter that much, but actually, because it gives you vision of the person, it counts as tagging them with anything else. That does mean you're going to get assists or even kills if the target you see dies soon afterwards. So there's three things with this. One, you can send it to random fights that are happening on the map, like mid lane, for example. If your Ghost arrives in time, then you can get a free assist, which is free gold. Send it into the jungle. If they are dumb enough to execute, then you'll actually get kill credit, even though you did no damage to them. Or if your enemy jungler is invading, if your thing sees the enemy jungler as your jungler invades, if your jungler kills them, you get an assist. Same with Dragon. That's probably actually more likely if you time it right, but I personally mainly use this when I get dove. So I send it out, and even if I don't manage to hit them before I die, if they die to the tower, I'd still get kill credit. So the next one is very similar. It's kind of random, but very useful. Ori is getting really popular right now, so this is one I wanted to mention. The more she is played, the more this will become useful as well, because it's kind of easy to dodge her ball if you expect it. The more you play against her, the more you kind of learn it, and the more you learn to expect when her ultimate is coming, I think. The best thing to do, actually, especially when laying a trap or waiting for them, is to hide your Q in the terrain. Hide your ball in terrain, the invisible Orianna ball. It does work best in walls, like solid walls, but trees kind of do it as well, I guess. You just use your Q to put it into the terrain, and there you go. Nobody can see it anymore. This works so well, especially because it will travel a shorter distance and give them less time to react. It's so good for catching people off guard, and nobody really expects it ever. The next one is for Thresh, and there's loads of Thresh tricks, right? Like the hook direction one, where you walk one way, you hook in another. Your model looks in one direction and the hook goes in another, which catches people off guard all the time. This one actually isn't as well known though, so this is one I wanted to focus on. You can actually block parts of the map with your lantern because it almost acts like terrain. Most common things are like here, bot lane, and mid lane as well. You throw them between the tower and the wall, and you can actually block the entire gap, so nobody can get through that. It will force them to start moving around if they've issued a move command on the other side of it. A lot like a Nivea wall, actually. You can know this and like hook up before they have a chance to react. It just forces them into a direction that you already know they will go because you're blocking them and you're forcing them to move. This is actually quite advanced. It has to have a lot of forethought to it, I think, but it's really good for ganks or dives for easy hooks, something not many people know or expect, so it easily catches people off guard. So most people will know that you can jump over walls and stuff with combat abilities, but there are so many different ways to do it as well. Jace, for example, you can ward over, get vision, and you just use your Q to jump the wall. That's a really easy escape. That's not really that interesting though, so what about from the other direction? So if you're trying to get out of the jungle, you can actually use your E to knock the jungle camp over the wall and then use your Q to follow it. It means you can actually escape the reverse way out of the jungle if you need to. Like, you don't actually go into the jungle where the jungle camp already is. You're knocking it out and then using it to escape. Yasuo is similar to Jace because you can do this an easy way by just warding over and using your E. You jump over the wall. That's great. You can also go through a camp though and come out over the other side of the wall. It's a little bit harder to do, and you need to be standing next to the camp when you press E, but it works on all of the smaller ones. You stand next to it, you press E, and over the wall you're going to go. By the way, this actually doesn't work on buffs anymore because the little ones are gone, and that's what you use to taxi over the wall with. And same with Hecarim, you can use your E to get over small walls, but it doesn't work on buffs anymore. A lot of you guys will know I love Pantheon, and there are two things I think aren't as known actually. Number one, he's immune to damage while actually in the air. They're not very long, but you can dodge things like Zed's Mark if you time it right, or Vlad or Ignite damage. It can be good to escape with or survive if you're ticking down from Ignite. The times I've used this mostly were at the end of a team fight where I'm still alive. I haven't used my ult yet, so I just use my ult to escape a little bit of damage I'm still taking from like an Ignite or something. Number two is a bit more interesting though. If the enemy doesn't have vision of where you use your ultimate, they actually won't see it until the very last second as the damage is applied. Like in these examples, you can ult bot lane and they get no warning. They don't see this blue circle that's on the screen now. They'll just see it a split second before the damage hits, and they have no time to react or escape. It's also really good for fights next to Baron and Dragon as well. You're using the little bushes to catch them off guard or just like kind of surprise engage, because one of Pantheon's biggest problems is you can see this coming a mile away. It takes ages, it's so long to land, and they have so long to react. So with this little trick, they actually don't anymore really, and you're removing one of the biggest weaknesses. Sure, you have to use it in a bush where they don't have vision, so it's not the most ideal thing. You can't use it wherever you like, but in some situations, especially when you're ganking bot lane, it can actually be really good. There are loads of abilities like this, but Morg's ultimate is a really good example. You can't use it when nobody is in range, right? It's grayed out. Twitch's E is another example. No poison stacks means you can't use it. So Morgana's ultimate though can help you see ganks coming in or knowing where invisible units are. Remember, invisibility means you actually can't see them anymore at all, not even with control wards or anything like that. You can't see them, but her ultimate will suddenly become available, so you can use it on that invisible person next to you. Even though you can't see them and you don't know where they actually are, it's more useful now than before because of how many invisible champs are around, and you can't count counter them with the pink walls like we said. It is just a small thing, but you can bear it in mind against anyone with invisibility if they try and get the jump on you. If Shaco jumps in, suddenly your ultimate is going to light up and you know he's right next to you. Draven is another one that has loads of little tricks and stuff in his kit anyway, but there are two things that I use quite a lot. The first one is deliberately placing my axe wrong. You have 2 spinning and your cooldown ready on your Q to reactivate, right? And it's versus like Thresh or Morgana. You put your axe below you so it's going to land there. You start to move towards it. Morgana normally is going to bind to predict you moving and catching that axe, but actually you move up, you replace your axe with another one and you just fight them. The bigger thing though is with his ultimate, so it's really easy to dodge the second part of the damage because it comes back after a short delay, which you can see on screen. It's really big. It's easily dodgeable. What you actually want to do though is press R again just before it hits the target to make it bounce almost immediately, giving them no time to react to it. It does take a little bit of practice, but it almost like doubles the ultimate damage if used correctly, because most are going to dodge the return axe, so it's kind of making sure you get both parts of the damage. The final one is Alistar's combo on the minions. The new Alistar is really good and so much more aggressive, which means people now give him more respect and they don't even come close sometimes. That's not always going to be a problem though with this minion combo. So you use your W on a minion right next to the AD and you just Q immediately after. You're still in range to hit them up even though your W wasn't. You follow that with an E, you get like 2 seconds of crowd control still even without hitting the W. You can also combo this with flash for something even better. W to a minion, flash in, Q, E to do a super long range setup, and that is one of my favorite things to do on Alistar. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, throw it a like. Thank you for watching, and for now, let's go to the robots.